All right, let's dive right into an explainer that is, well, it's hilarious, but it's also incredibly relatable. Today we are exploring a viral internet saga that perfectly captures what happens when medical realities completely crash into everyday expectations. It's a story of panic, bizarre anatomy, and the absolute absurdity of the internet coming to the rescue.
Picture this. You bring your beloved puppy home from what is supposed to be a totally routine neutering procedure. You expect a small incision, maybe a sad little cone of shame, but instead, you discover an empty, dangling sack swinging right between his legs. The testicles were gone, sure, but the sack was not. It was just there. And it begs this hilarious yet genuinely terrifying question: what happens when you remove the contents but completely forget the packaging?
Section 1. The Post-Surgery Surprise. Now, the owner in our story hadn't had a male dog in roughly a decade, and their last dog had already been neutered before even coming home, so they were entirely unprepared for this whole post-surgery anatomical situation. The clinic insisted everything was fine, and medically it absolutely was. The puppy got right back on his feet, he was happy and healing fast. But visually, the owner was genuinely terrified this empty flap was just going to stay there forever. They pictured their perfectly normal puppy turning into a permanent surgical oddity, leaving them with what they privately imagined as the world's doofiest-looking dog. And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates the owner's quiet, desperate hope. I mean, they loved this dog completely, affectionately calling him their little demon, and they had zero intention of changing anything medically. But they were absolutely dreading the possibility of having to spend the next 10 years introducing their dog to strangers at the park as Flappy.
Which brings us to Section 2. Normal, but not explained.
You see, this is exactly where the communication just completely broke down at the clinic. It was closing time, everyone was rushing. The vet kept repeating that this was normal, effectively addressing the medical concern by stating the puppy would heal better and be pain-free in 72 hours. But they totally glossed over the owner's glaring visual concern about that leftover packaging. Would this empty pouch shrink? Was it going to hang forever? How long would it take? The crazy part is, the owner didn't even realize they needed to ask these questions until the puppy was already home and bouncing around the living room.
Moving on to Section 3. The internet names the pancake.
So, desperate for some answers and reassurance, the owner takes this visual panic straight to the internet. Strangers quickly jumped in to validate the worry. And then, exactly as the internet always does, civilization entirely collapsed into jokes. The crucial takeaway here is that a strange body part becomes way less frightening when hundreds of people admit their pets have one too. This whole underground vocabulary for empty canine anatomy just poured in. People were calling it a coin purse, a change purse, a groin purse, a ball flap. One veterinarian had even referred to a dog's leftover empty sack as a tiny pancake, which one owner noted would just sort of relax whenever their dog was lying in the sun.
Okay, my absolute favorite from this entire thread was an owner who shared a story about their 9-year-old neutered stray. Whenever this dog got huffy and annoyed, the family called him Flat Sack Ferguson. Honestly, the internet rightly declared that a brilliant insult and, let's be real, a pretty great band name.
And the stories just keep building. Another owner chimed in saying their dog healed into this concentrated patch of fur they affectionately dubbed the ball hawk. Hearing all these ridiculously unserious jokes did exactly what that rushed vet failed to do. It completely normalized the sight. The owner finally realized they probably weren't going to have to rename their dog Flappy.
Section 4. The Shrinkage Uncertainty.
But amidst all the jokes and the collective sigh of relief, the internet revealed a pretty tricky reality. There is literally no universal rule for what happens to that leftover flap. Leaving the tissue actually serves a real medical purpose. It allows room for temporary swelling and means smaller incisions, which is great for healing. But the final cosmetic result? Wildly unpredictable. For a young puppy, the tissue likely shrinks down dramatically. For an older dog, it often deflates like a balloon before becoming a patch of concentrated fur. But for mature cats, they might retain these furry pom-poms or look so completely intact that veterinarians actually judge the owners for not neutering them, only to realize the surgery definitely was done.
So remember that 72-hour timeline the vet gave? Yeah, they accurately predicted the puppy would be pain-free in exactly 72 hours. Perfect medical timeline. But they failed entirely to mention that the cosmetic healing, the actual shrinking of the sac, could take weeks, months, or even years depending on the animal's age, skin, and tissue development.
Which leads us to a wild detour in Section 5, the prosthetics tangent.
Just when you think you've got a handle on the trajectory of an internet forum, boom, a massive, bizarre detour that literally no one saw coming. People started bringing up prosthetic testicles.
Yes, canine cosmetic implants are a real thing. They are inserted during a neutering procedure purely to maintain a natural visual appearance. One clinic worker mentioned ordering them as a joke for a vet neutering his own dog, but it's a genuine product used by owners who really want their pets to look intact.
This actually sparked a genuine debate. Could fake implants persuade a reluctant owner to sterilize their pet? While some argued it might actually have a real benefit for hesitant owners, the thread quickly lost all remaining dignity and derailed into unhinged stories about humans. People started sharing wild anecdotes about human ex-boyfriends with oversized prosthetic replacements, and even dates who opened conversations by explaining why they had 4 testicles.
Yeah.
But if you look underneath all that absolute chaos, this bizarre tangent provided the exact practical contrast our panicked owner needed. Their puppy didn't have weird cosmetic implants or foreign material added to his body. It was just the complete mundanity of leftover anatomy. Nothing was added, it was simply what was left behind. Bringing it all together in Section 6, the communication gap. This whole hilarious saga highlights a massive gap between professional veterinary medicine and everyday pet owners. Just look at how this broke down. Step 1. The vet rushes the explanation at closing time, simply stating the puppy will heal better. Step 2. The owner goes home entirely blind to what this healing will actually look like. Step 3. Absolute panic ensues over the dog's unexpected silhouette. A single extra sentence from that vet, just saying that the empty tissue might be super visible now but could shrink over time, would have prevented this entire anxiety spiral.
Because let's be honest, pet owners do not walk around with a mental reference library of healing dog scrotums in their heads. When something looks radically different from what we expect, we panic. It literally took an army of strangers sharing unserious jokes and stories about a cat displaying his leftover anatomy during remote court in front of a judge to normalize the situation and provide real, tangible relief.
Ultimately, it all boils down to this perfect quote from the source. A professional can say something is normal and be completely correct. The owner can still go home terrified. It forces us to ask a rather provocative question. What is the true value of the word normal if the professional using it refuses to explain what you're actually looking at? So the next time an expert tells you something is standard procedure, are you going to remember to ask them what normal is actually going to look like in your living room?